Meeting to order. The first order of business will be for nominations of chair. Do we have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate John.
All right, we have a nomination. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Nominations being closed, can I get a vote for John Jones as chair? All in favor?
Do we still have to do it?
We probably should roll call because people from the public wouldn't be
Dan
able
Vick,
to.
aye.
Paul, aye.
Dan Mall, aye.
Bob Newman, aye.
All right, Mr. Chairman, next order of business would be nominations for vice chair.
Are you doing that, or
No, you are. You now have the meeting. I don't.
do I have a nomination for a vice chair?
I'll make a nomination for Paul.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye. Oh, Dan Vick, aye.
John Jones, aye.
Dan Mall, aye.
Bob Newman, aye.
Do I vote?
You're in. Yeah, you won.
Then the next would be to adopt the meeting calendar.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adopt the meeting calendar that we have?
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2021 meeting date.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Dan Vick, aye.
Paul, aye.
John, aye.
Dan Mall, aye.
Bob Newman, aye.
Okay, moving on. What's the next one?
Minutes.
Okay, we're that far. The minutes of the last meeting, any comments?
I'll make
Motion.
a motion to approve the December 4th minutes to the meeting.
There's been a motion
I'll second that motion.
and seconded. All in favor?
Dan Vick, aye.
Paul, aye.
John, aye.
Dan Mall, aye.
Bob Newman, aye.
Okay, Barry,
Just one moment, Mr. Chairman. Is the staff report you all have with you a little bit light in the packet, the one I included in your folders this morning? It looks, mine is missing about half the pages, so just give me a second. I gotta pull up. Rather than running back into the office, I'll just pull up my document for it. So, yeah, go ahead, Terry. Sorry about that. I just noticed that this morning. I went to. No, I should be fine.
Morning.
morning.
You can give your names for the record. Well,
My name's Dean Hopeland.
thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the request involves a 1.4 acre lot in Maple Lake Township. This was a lot that was platted as part of a subdivision in 2002. I've got too many things up here. Let me get to it. The request is for an after-the-fact variance for a 1,680 square foot accessory structure. The property is zoned R1, which carries with it a limitation on accessory structure. So lots between 20,000 and 80,000 square feet are limited to one structure not to exceed 1,400 square feet. And so this particular building is about 280 square feet over what is typically allowed for this zoning district. The property, based on acreage, is allowed a total of 2,400 square feet, so it does not exceed the total, just simply that single structure requirement in the ordinance. The building was permitted in 2003 as a 33 by 42, but was built at a 40 by 42. It was also built 7.7 feet from the property line at the closest point. That is the southeast corner. The northeast corner is 10.8, so it meets the 10-foot side. This one's a little bit funny because it was platted to have a road come through. That road doesn't exist yet because the rest of the property hasn't been fully developed. And so how do you look at that line? Is it a rear line? Because County Road 8 is the actual frontage right now, but at some point, there's gonna be a road through there, and that then won't be a rear anymore, it'll be a side. So whether it should be 10 or 15 feet is a little bit open for discussion because of how this whole thing kind of has transpired to this point. So what we mentioned, or what the staff report has is, well, you know what, we'll just call it a side. It's 7.7 feet, so it's 2.3 feet short of that 10-foot setback requirement. I really don't have a whole lot more to add. We did receive approval from the township, and I did receive a response from Tony Hennon. His response is fairly lengthy, so I'm not gonna read it. He doesn't really agree or disagree, but has a few comments, and all that response is in your packets. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, before we get going here, is there any reason you overbid or overbuilt the property other than what was assigned to you? Or what you
I guess I
permitted
thought
for?
after talking to, from the county, I thought you could build so much of a shed one year and do the rest of it the second year. That's what we did there. We started in December, finished up in January. Obviously, I was wrong. I'll admit I was wrong. I had full responsibility for that. I've got kind of an introduction here, if I could read it.
Sure.
Certainly.
To you. The first, number one, Nip Lake Township fully approves of doing this the way we're doing it. Number two, the staking of the shed was done by Morton Builders in the building. I'm here to apply for variances for shed, lot 1, block 2, deer path. Not a surveyor or builder. Morton did the layout and the building and the staking. Never checked it, and there was an oversight in the layout, which resulted in the shed too close to the line. Oversize was my fault, and I take full responsibility for the oversize. I'm seeking a variance to keep the shed as is and location-wise. I made a mistake.
Okay. All right, Dan, we'll start with you.
All right. Well, you know, I know how things happen on the building site. I'm a contractor myself, and I don't want to condone it. However, I read his letter from your neighbor. He said he didn't even notice it. However, I wouldn't want to give a blanketed pass on everybody that's done it, you know, because I think it's got to be an individual case. I can understand as a homeowner, things get going and all planning, so you can oversee some things. So I guess I'm not gonna say he needs to tear it down or move a shed, so, I'm at that position.
Paul?
First, thanks for your honest and candid response and taking responsibility. It means a lot. We see things like this a lot. In this particular case, it
It's the
did.
biggest mistake I've ever made.
Yeah, and it didn't look good on you, but the fact that you took responsibility means a lot to me personally. However, we do have a problem, and you know, how do we resolve the problem is really a difficult one. And your neighbor does bring up a point that we always worry about, and is that what do we do for the next guy that comes and wants to build an oversized building? You know what I mean? How do we address that? Because he can say, well, my neighbor did this and he did nothing. So I really struggle with what can we do? Can we reduce or remove part of the addition at all? You know, you have the main building itself. Can you remove part of that? Would that be wait, no, well, you got the big part, but just south of there or whatever, just lower, you have an extension of that building that comes out. Is that added?
That's all concrete.
Concrete.
That is concrete.
That concrete, the building's square, or not quite, 42 by 40
Yeah.
is the building. That is the total square footage. There are no little additions or, you know, extensions of it. It's pretty much a rectangular building.
Yeah. Okay, that's concrete.
Can
Well,
I say one more thing? On the surveyor from Maple Lake that surveyed this, he came up with 7.7. Well, we went out and did it again. And from this line here, corner of the shed is car lengths long, so that's about 40 feet from here to here.
Ken,
We're
it's,
almost legal till we get
Yeah.
here. Then it goes down to 7 and 7 on the corner.
I can live with the setback variance there. It's the size issue that it's concerning me. And, you know, there's really, I'm not a big fan of advocating tearing it down. And I think we
I hate to interrupt you, sir, but I've had bids from Morton and it's out of this world.
Yeah.
They want.
I think, you know, my position at this stake is we grant the variance based on the fact that, you know, you were honest and candid, took full responsibility, and that's my position at this point.
Ken?
I'm somewhat with you guys, but I'm a little bit further away. Some of the points you brought up, Paul, what do we do in the future? And I guess I look at some of the stuff that we were given, and I look on the prints, and it has right on there, call for footing inspection prior to placing concrete. You know, some of that stuff would have been caught if it was inspected. I mean, came in and applied for a variance, or not a variance, a permit, and then on some of that stuff, there's 2 different places where it says, you know, get your inspection, your truss inspection. It would have been caught. I mean, but the inspections weren't called for, whoever built it, if you built it yourself, however, it should have been caught at those times. And I just have a hard time, where's the hardship here? He had a permit, he knew exactly what size to build it. It's on his permits, I mean, we have that in our packet. I mean, I don't want to tear anything down either.
Yeah.
But where are we at in our precedents, and if we see these things? There's been other times where we've granted them, and there is a hardship. I mean, for different ones that we've had come through. But I'm struggling there on this one. I'm struggling, okay? And I don't want to see anything tore down either. The shed is there. But when you have a whole development, and we have another one coming up in here, how are we gonna handle that? You know, we're gonna set a precedence for ourselves on allowing some of these variances. The side yard setback, we've worked with those lots of times, you know, I don't have an issue there. But it's your lot coverage or your building sizes that we've stood pretty solid on. So.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Yeah, that's how this kind of came up. You know, one of the issues is that, you know, as an office, we have limited staff for the number of properties we have. You know, we drive by, and we issue, you know, thousands of permits, well, I shouldn't say thousands, but anywhere from 800 to 15 or 1,600 permits a year. And so it's, like myself, driving around the county with the job I do, I notice construction all the time, and you know, you come back to the office and occasionally you question it. Some of them I know, but some of these things go up so fast too. I get out of the office on inspections twice a month maybe, where I'm actually driving around the county. And so these things, they're hard to notice, you know, and we get updated aerials every so often, but I don't go through those aerials parcel by parcel. I mean, we're talking 25,000 parcels I have to go through, and so we don't do that. And so yes, this one was missed from you know, it's been there for 17 years. Yeah. But these types of things, it's really difficult to catch them too. You know?
But Barry, correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody would have been out there to inspect the footings like is required with the permit, I mean, it's written on here, and then there's another one for the trusses. I mean, it would have been caught, wouldn't have it? I mean, the inspector going out there should have looked at the permit and says, okay, you were permitted for X, why is it?
Right.
The question should have been asked then, correct?
Yes,
I mean, the county inspector does look at the prints, don't they?
yes.
You know, so it would have been.
They bring them
caught
to
then.
the sites with them. We keep paper copies of the permits until they're finalized, and then we destroy them once they're final. And so, yeah, they bring copies of the plans on every inspection that they go, except for You know, there's a few types of construction that are basically exempt from that, but for any type of building like this, they go out to the site with the plans. They know what the footing should be, what the stud should be, where the windows and doors are supposed to be, all that's part of their review. And
Because if you could tell me that the inspector was out there and he missed it and it was his fault, then there's a hardship. Then there's a reason the county inspector made a mistake.
And that's a situation where I probably wouldn't even have brought it to the board. That's something we should have noticed, we should have caught, we didn't. In this case, none of those inspections were done, so we didn't have a chance to.
Right, and I guess that's where I'm coming from.
I hate to say 10 years or 17 years ago, though, what the inspectors are doing, because you get a relationship with your inspectors, there'll be a tendency to trust is there, so a lot of times they'll look, but they don't take the tape measure out and measure, so there could be a possibility of just not missing 7 feet in width, you know. Okay, that's how many holes we said, boom. I just have one other thing to add, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any way for you to, what's he got, 3 acres, add a couple acres in that spot, go all the way to the road or
He's
anything?
got 1.5,
Oh, you got one? something?
somewhere around in there, I have it written down. 1.4, not without going back through a conditional use permit, because this isn't like an ag division where, you know, by ordinance you can just add property to it. You have to go back through the public hearing process, because this lot is approved strictly as it sits by a document approved by the planning commission. The only way to change that is to go back to that board. Now, that's not to say that that isn't a possibility here to remedy it, but it's not, it's more difficult because the land where it would come from that's yet to be developed is now owned by somebody else. So, you know, Mr. Gels is the one who developed this lot and this property, but he does not own the lot or the property to the east anymore, and so that's, you know, as an R1 lot, as an urban rural transition zone lot, it's allowed up to 2.5 acres. And so it's not that it's not possible, and once you get above 80,000 square feet, then your minimum or maximum building size changes from 1,400 to 2,000 square feet. And
It's
so it would be-
technically where the house is down there, that's all combined, right? Is that where you live, on the house down below?
No, not that one.
Because we don't just build a shed, do we?
What's that?
Do we allow just to build a shed on a property?
There's nothing that prohibits an accessory structure. There's been a lot of conversation, there are some counties that don't, because what's it accessory to?
Okay.
We don't fit into that category because
That's what I've heard that, so.
we understand the need for storage. Look at the backlots we create. What for? Strictly for storage. So as long as they're used as a personal storage building, we're fine. Not
Okay.
that we don't run into issues with people
like that.
trying to live in them or other things, but we don't prohibit it. We do allow it.
I thought that driveway, because it comes in on the other side, was kind of all one lot at one time when they built that, so.
Nope.
Okay.
No, that lot to the south there is the neighbor who submitted the response.
Bob?
Nice introduction.
Who's this guy?
Bob Newman, he's our newest board member.
Was the property surveyed before the building was built?
I believe it was.
It was, it's part, since it was part of the plat, all the monumenting, staking, and surveying is required at the time that the plat gets finalized. I mean, they have to submit actual Mylars to every county department and get approvals before it gets approved by the county board and divided. So, it was surveyed, but this lot specifically as the survey that we have now might not have been done. Just because usually with accessory structures like that, we do not require a certificate of survey to build them. And so I do. Oh, give me just one moment, I do have the survey that he recently did, I just have to pull it up. So just give me a moment, I'm gonna pull
Can I
that.
make a comment, sir?
Yes.
Maybe I said this already, but I had the surveyor come out and resurvey corner lot from the northeast corner here to the shed is 10.8 feet. He had 7.7 on there, and I don't understand. It is 7.7 up by the southeast corner, but, so we've got almost 3 or 4 car lengths here of lot that's okay. I asked him, I said, why did you type it up as 7.7 the first time? He said, well, I thought you wanted to get as close to the building as possible. I still don't understand why you did.
Give me just one moment. I'll pull a copy of that up. So if you got more comments, just go ahead and speak while I'm pulling it up.
Well, I was at the shed one time, and there was a fellow from Wright County out there measuring it, and I said, is everything all right? He said it looks all right. He said it's good. It's awfully close, but it looks all right. I didn't write his name down. I didn't write the date down. I didn't write anything down, but after the shed was up.
That very well could have been the assessor, because when the assessors come out, they're always carrying tape measures and measuring the sizes of your buildings for that. I mean, that's very, very normal.
Go ahead,
I
Bob.
hate to be trying to get into stuff.
I look at the property and I
My OneDrive, it's just sitting there.
often
spinning.
question why they built exactly right at the very absolute minimum distance away when you have what looks like an awful lot of space elsewhere on the property to shift over 5 feet, 10 feet.
Well, that's what I can't understand either. I mean, I trust the Morton Buildings. They do a lot of buildings. And I fully trusted them, and
Now, what I would say, as far as the setback in that line, you know, contractors, I mean, even staff, when you're standing out there and you're doing all this stuff in bare fields, you know, they could have measured that one corner and assumed a straight north-south line, you know, ran a transit and say, okay, now we're straight. Well, that line's at a little bit more of an angle than you think. I mean, I can see how that can happen, because that building looks aligned almost straight north to south. But that line is on, done differently than magnetic north, the way that surveying equipment works. So it's, I can see how that can happen, just, you know, you don't realize it.
I agree. When you look at it, everything looks straight.
If Outlot C does get developed, then that will be the side setback. Then we're only be talking like 28 inches.
So this was the survey that was recently completed.
No,
And I actually called the surveyor yesterday and confirmed on that northeast corner at 10.8.
He did come up with different numbers than he did the first time. I still don't know why he did that 7.7 to the corner and that. I never understand. To the best of my knowledge, there's almost 4 car lengths of legal lot there. Get up to the northeast tip, no, we're at 7.7. Just like he said, look at it, everything looks fine, but when measured,
And I guess my final comment is, it's pretty black and white that he was of the size of building that he was supposed to build, and somewhere along the line, additions or it got extra big.
260 square feet.
And, you know, that's where I'm sitting, I guess, too, is that too big is too big.
I
if
just
this
want to,
was a, you know, quite a bit smaller lot, building size would have a much bigger impact on neighbors and sewers, wells, that type of thing. And I think any future development is going to be fairly decent sized lots where it shouldn't impact any future development. County Park is to the north of it.
But the problem is, and I understand where you're coming from, but we sit here and listen to this every time we meet, people not following what they say they're gonna do. So that's the biggest problem. If you go there to the board, planning and zoning, they will tell you exactly what you can and cannot do, which apparently was done in this situation. And thrown out the window, and I'll do what I want.
if I could add.
Yes.
Just to kind of restate my position is, you know, we all acknowledge that the building's too big, and we acknowledge the precedent that are setting, but what do we do? That's kind of where I'm at, and I'm in favor of not tearing down the building, and just to kind of clarify my position, I think that number one, for many years, 17 years, no one could tell or knew that it was 200 and some square feet over. It does fit into the location, it doesn't stand out, and more importantly, you know, the applicant won't be involved in any future development, or is he benefiting from it? You know, he's not, you know, benefiting in the sense that his actions, you know, were blatant, so that he could have, you know, more stuff or whatever. It's just one building here, and he's gonna be out of the picture here shortly, and those are the factors that I'm considering that are different in some point that, in the future.
I have one question. If this was not an after-the-fact situation, would we approve it? Wide open lot, he was coming in for a variance of 200 extra feet, would we approve it?
Good question.
I mean, that's because that's how somebody put it to me one time when we had these after-the-facts, and it's kind of like, I was kind of going down your same line. Exactly what you're saying.
I believe it was former board member Quiggle that brought that up last year, the year before.
Yeah, and would you approve it if it was not after the fact? And again, I'm not seeing a hardship.
Yeah.
And would we approve it? I have a hard time believing this, sitting on this board with you fellow members, that we would approve it.
No, point well taken.
So that's what, and I'm struggling because I have the same thoughts. The shed is sitting there there's no house there. The setback, we've done this before. We've given setback for 7.7 feet. I can go, it's the size of the building and the coverage, and we've always been very sticky on those things, whether it's a lake or property. How do we handle this, you know?
The only thing I will add, for this one versus maybe some others, is that this one at least does not exceed the total that is allowed for this site. And so with this structure, if it were to approve of this size, they can still come in and add another 700 square feet. And so this building isn't at the max size that is allowed here yet. You know, there was discussions a few years ago about, we used to have a limitation on R2 zone lots where it was, well, it's a 2,000 square foot max. Well, R2 zone lots range from 2.5 to 4.99 acres. You know, they're allowed 3,200 square feet. Yep. And so the county board, the planning commission and the county board removed that limitation on those zone lots, and there was discussion about doing the same thing with R1 at that time, but it never materialized, so it never changed it. It was only that one zoning district. And so, just so the board is aware, it is another thing to consider. If this was, you know, to be 400 or 500 or 600 square feet over the total that's allowed, I see that as being a little bit different than this, just because he's still allowed more structure here. And so, if he were to come in and say, you know what, I would like to have my 2,000 square feet in one building versus two. I mean, would that change the board's mind? Because that, in essence, is what this is. It's after the fact, yes, but it's not a variance to exceed the total, it's a variance to exceed that limitation in a single accessory structure. So that hasn't been discussed, but that is a fact of this lot. He's not over.
Yeah.
He's over his single building, but not over his total building for accessory structures. So I haven't heard any discussion of that, and so I thought I'd at least want to bring that up, because that is a piece here. I mean, the board has heard a few of those recently where it's not the total, it's just that single accessory.
It's not over.
It's not over the total that's allowed on the property. And so right now it's 1,686 square feet. You're allowed to build another 714 square feet of accessory building. And so, you know, he could tear this down, come right back and build, you know, another, 1,000 square feet. He's allowed 2,400 on this property.
Okay, can we put any, if we were to allow the variance, can we put within that motion any stipulation about anything, you know, any other accessory buildings or structures being built?
Well, you can, you could certainly say because this one's oversized, you don't want to allow any more, or you want to limit it to X square footage. However, any type of overage of the 2,400 has to come back here anyway.
Right, but
So-
I'm saying with maintaining, you have, where you have an oversized building here, it's a way of putting.
Somewhat of a
notice that.
limitation on it?
You have a limitation, you already have technically too big of a shed. So you get one shed, not another shed, that's,
It would be a thing where if you were to do that, I would suggest something where it's, you know, allow something, just a garden shed, because they might want a garden here, they might not want it right here, they might have to walk halfway across their lot, which is fairly, you know, it's still an acre and a half.
If they build a house though, they can have a larger garage as they want, right?
They could add, the attached garage has, I'm not saying there's no limitation, but it's fairly significant size of structure they could build that's attached to the house.
I think 17 years ago, didn't harm anybody, didn't harm the environment, so that's why I'm thinking, would I approve it now? No. I guess I would probably say, well, try to stay in the limits, but 17 years ago, I don't know. I know the thought process was a lot different than it is today, too.
I have paid taxes.
What was that, sir? What did you
I
add?
have paid the real estate taxes on that lot for all 17 years.
Yeah, it's a different department, as you were saying, the tax people probably were out there. That's a totally different situation. Does the individual who is going to purchase the property or who already has purchased the property, does he know about this?
Yes, he does.
That's kind of how this came about, is I got a call from Mr. Hoagland. You know, somebody was looking at buying it, and he called me asking, well, what are the limitations and those types of things, and that's when I got into looking at the aerial, and I see the permit, and it's like, well, this thing's more square than what I think it should be based on the size that the permit shows, and so that's when I started digging into it. And so what happens in those cases when we see something non-compliant is, in this case, our only recourse is to basically deny permits until it's brought into compliance, and that's what it is here. Any prospective buyer wouldn't be allowed to build a house on this lot. It's entitled to one, but we wouldn't allow it because the property is currently not in compliance. And so that's why we're here, to clear this up before the sale goes through, so that the new buyer, if he wants to build a house or he wants to sell it with the ability to build the house, it's taken care of now.
He doesn't want to build a house, does he?
Not in the near future. Someday possibly there'll be a house there, yes.
But that's where the value is too.
Huh?
That's where the value is.
Yeah.
That's what would hurt, having a limit on the potential future buyer as an error 17 years ago, penalizing.
Yeah, you couldn't even get a permit to build it, whether it's 10 years from now or 20.
but there we sit, okay, it costs money. Take off the 200 square feet, you're in compliance, you're there. The mistake is gone, you can do whatever you want, you can build your other building. I mean, then we're in compliance and we're just having a variance for a setback. I mean, and that, I know I'm sounding like my predecessor Charlotte, but on some of this stuff, I mean.
Well, and that's,
Are you suggesting to have part of that shed removed then to be in compliance?
Basically, it's about one truss.
That's what I was
With the
just gonna
back
ask,
wall
is that an 8-foot on center spacing?
You know,
I'm
8 foot or
sorry, I
6
can't
foot?
hear you.
my guess is,
The post spacing on there, is that 8, 6, 8?
should be in the permit.
You know,
be on
before your rafters,
in the permit.
are usually,
7, 8.
oh yeah.
Well, and trying to get to your point, Dan, that
7 feet, 8 inches?
7 feet, 8 inches are the truss spacings, or the pole spacings. To kind of get to your point, well, that's an option too. If you approve it and say, okay, no more accessory structures, well, you can say, unless this structure is then brought into compliance. And that gives them the option, okay, you want to build another 1,000 square feet?
Yeah.
Remove this square footage from this building, then you can do it. Otherwise, you got to come back here and try to remove the condition, which they always have the ability to do. That's gonna be the case regardless. If they wanted to build another 2,000 square feet, they have the ability to come back here. We can't deny them that right, so.
Something like that I would go along with. If we can put some type of a condition on it.
Okay, what conditions here?
You want me to kind of summarize? What they're kind of discussing is allowing the variance, but putting a limitation on the property that no other accessory structures can be built unless the building is brought into compliance. So the property can transfer, they can take it, they can build a house, they can do whatever they want,
They can't
except
add another
they
building,
can't add another building unless,
can't add another building on to, if they approve this the way we're sitting right now,
right.
right?
Pull off that
Yeah.
last truck.
That's the condition that they're discussing.
That would be reasonable too.
The only other building that can be built then, if they
Is the
approve the
house.
variance, would be a single-family home.
Yes.
No other detached building,
Unless they shorten that building and.
unless they shorten it down to
That-
7,
that- that-
so they got a total of
They- they- they-
2,400.
They want $20,000 to shorten that building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that.
Council, forgive me if I'm wrong, but that does appear to be a reasonable condition.
Yes, Barry, I would agree that would be a reasonable condition.
I just want to make sure the board isn't doing something that, from council's point of view, he doesn't feel reasonable and is defensible.
That'd be 288 square feet roughly removed.
Yep.
To pull that one post off.
But in
Yep.
the meantime, they can still sell the property, still build a home.
Everything can go
They
on.
can still do that, yeah.
It's allowed to basically exist. You're allowed to do what you could before. The only thing you're not allowed to do is add any other structures.
What about a small garden
720
shed
square feet
under
of another, that sounds
200?
reasonable.
Is
doesn't
that
it?
720 square feet on another structure, if there was another structure put on it?
Well, as it
What you said, right?
as it currently sits,
Dean's a little bit hard of hearing, you guys, so.
Okay.
yes.
I understand.
So sorry, I'm a little bit shook up here. They can, in addition to what's there now, they could put a small 720 square foot.
No.
No, that's the condition they're gonna
That's the
set.
condition that I'm
is-
willing to go along with.
Right.
If there's that
No
con-
more, just a single-family home, no other
You build
building.
your single-family home with a huge garage, attached garage, and that's all permitted and stuff, and you
Attached,
already
yeah.
have your shed for your
That'd be fine.
lawnmowers.
I say that'd be fine.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll work,
You know, because I mean, you have a shed there already.
yeah.
You put your lawnmowers in it, you can put your rakes and your shovels and your little tractors, whatever in it.
And we'll make sure that the buyer is aware of that.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, because we don't want them
Well,
to come
he'll
back.
probably be over and talk to Barry anyway. I
Yep.
think he's been here a couple of times.
He's called.
Yeah,
All right.
I can go along with something like that, I guess, because then I feel that I'm still
Yep.
holding
agree.
precedence, and I can answer to the neighbor like the letters we've had, and explain, yes, there was a mistake made, it happened, but we've made it so there can't be,
I like the solution. I think
Yeah,
that's
I think it
good
works.
all the way around.
yeah.
I'd like to thank you guys.
Motion man.
Okay, oh,
If you want, I can run through one as I have before.
I'll try it out here.
Barry?
I make a motion to approve the variance of an after-effect variance to allow for an oversized 1,600 square foot pole building, 7.7 feet from the east side of the property line. Building exceeds 1,400 square feet allowed for a single structure in an R1 zone according to section 155.026, 155.049, C, B, and F3, chapter 155, title 15, land usage and zoning of the Wright County Code of Ordinance with the condition that follows that no other accessory buildings be built or until the current building is brought into compliance.
May I add one thing?
Oh,
on
I
that?
got you.
Okay.
Compliance as far as square footage, they don't have to move off the lot
Correct.
line.
No,
They still
no.
get the variance on that.
A variance approved, yeah, for the setback, so.
Very good.
That sound about right?
That sounds right to me.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded?
I did have one bit of discussion. It's 1,680.
I just got a question. If he says, yep, I will make that building 1,400 square feet, say the new buyer,
Yeah.
Could he build 1,000 square foot building?
Yes.
Yep,
Yeah,
you bet.
okay, and a
He's
single.
in compliance, it's good.
I got a question for Barry too. Will he get a occupancy permit for that building after this now?
He would have to call in for a final inspection, and I don't know if we have plans, obviously, that were scanned, so he can get a final inspection done on it. He'd want to just talk to the building inspectors and
I think
have,
Dave is down there today.
yeah, talk to the building official and see what he wants to do with it.
See what
If
he
he wants
does.
the final, fine. If he doesn't, that's not up to me. That's the building department's.
He'll be all right either way.
Okay, we need to call the vote. Please, since we are, well, actually, yeah,
Do a roll call.
we'll do roll call. It's just a good idea. All right.
Dan Vick, aye.
Paul, aye.
John, I.
Dan Mal, aye.
Bob Newman, aye.
All right, you're good to go.
Okay, I just got one more question for you. They can, the way everything's sitting now, they can put 1,000 square foot building on there yet if they want to.
They'd have to remove a portion of the existing building to do it.
Yep.
280 feet.
We'll be in good shape.
Everything that's required is pretty happy.
He'll be all right with that.
Any further discussion?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
I'm Brenda Neistat.
What was the first name?
Brenda.
Thank you.
Mark? Yes, Mr. Chairman, on this one, we do have Troy Locken on as part of the virtual meeting. And I did have another, but I don't see that person here now. But we'll go to them after we get a chance to summarize and go to the applicant. Okay, Mr. Chairman, what we have is a property in Southside Township. It's two pieces. It's a lakeshore lot that's 18,000, a little over 18,000 square feet with an attached back lot. The back lot was added in 1995. That back lot's 3.14 acres. The request is for a 36 by 48 pole building on the back lot. That would bring the total accessory structures for the property to 46,024 square feet, or I have a couple of different ways. I show 3628 as well, which, like I say, would bring it about 1,400 square feet over the maximum, which is 3,200 square feet of total accessory on this particular size of property. The lakeshore lot is zoned R1 as an old non-conforming lot of record. As mentioned, the back lot was added, and that one is zoned general agriculture. So in the case of the back lot, there is no, single structure, it's just a total. And since it's a back lot, we generally combine the lots. In this case, combining them doesn't make any difference. The total is 3,200 square feet regardless of whether we include it or not include it. So So that's what we have. I do have an aerial with a approximate location. I scaled that on using the information provided by the applicant. So that is, excuse me, not the exact location, but it's rough. It's pretty close. And as you can see, the applicant has an existing 40 by 60 building, I believe is what that one is. And then there's a lean-to off the one side. There's also a hoop building and another storage shed there. That's how we come up with what's existing, and then add the proposed structure to that. That's how we get the square footage proposed that we have. And I also have the location as proposed by the applicant in his drawing, and then the plans for the structure itself. So this would be the elevation drawings, and then we also have a floor plan and a cross-section for that piece. For this request, we did receive approval from the township, indicating that they approve since it's under the 25% impervious coverage limitation. Oh, sorry about that. Wrong file. Wondering what was going on there. And then we did receive, here we go, a response from Roger and Susan Salmala, and they object to the request, indicating that the maximum size allowed should not be exceeded, and also a response from Jolene Pierce, indicating that they disapprove of it, and they gave some reasons why, and that both of those responses are in your packet from this morning. So that is all I have.
And Barry, just so you know, the Pierces did message. I believe they're on this call right now.
Okay. Okay, if you have anything more to add? Oh, yeah, now I see it.
That about says it all. I mean,
Okay.
We should go to the public, Mr. Chairman. Does Mr. Locken or the Pierces have any comments? Remember to unmute yourself.
This is Logan. I'm just a neighbor on the lake. I do not have any comments. Thank you.
This is Dustin and Jolene Pierce. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. We just want to reiterate our comments that I had emailed in as far as the three factors, and really looking at how it will alter the essential character of our neighborhood. Like I had said in my statement, he already has a large shed, and having another large shed, we just feel it will look more like an industrial park than a lake community. So we hope you take our comments and into account. Thank you.
Okay, any comments to that?
Our comments to that actually is, it really doesn't border any property. It's not affecting this building. It's not obstructing any view. It's on our back lot. We didn't have to remove any vegetation to put that up. And I guess our goal is just to shelter our remaining construction equipment.
Is that what
It would be out of view from any of the neighbors.
is what I see all the other construction equipment?
I was half owner of Diamar and superintendent on the Annandale Drinking Water Plant, Public Works Building, and the Annandale Maple Lake, Howard Lake Wastewater Treatment Plant, Delano Water Treatment Plant, and dozens of other throughout the state. So this was our staging area at that time. But since then, a lot of that stuff's been auctioned off.
Okay, well,
We've
that would be,
actually cleaned it up quite
Yeah,
a bit.
it's clean, and with the shed up, it will look better than obviously it is now. You know.
Is the construction equipment still in use, or is it just what you have left?
I still have a smaller dozer, tractor backhoe, and a skid loader, and then pontoon, you know, we're on the lake, jet ski and lawnmowers, four-wheelers, and we'd like, you know, to keep that inside if we could, you know.
Doug, do you have a conditional use permit for a construction lot or any conditional use permit to be running that out of your house or
Well,
the back lot?
yeah, my partner is 70, he's retired, and I'm not doing it anymore, so I'm not using it. I just want the equipment that I have, I just want to get it inside until I sell it or whatever, you know.
And our existing building is actually, it was set up as a horse barn, so it's not wide open. There's stalls. So there's just one narrow spot inside that building.
So is there livestock there now, or horses or anything? So there's no livestock on the
We have our
property?
dogs fenced in.
Okay, Paul?
I'll take this off for a second. I do have some serious concerns. Basically, there's two of them. Number one, it is the amount that's being asked, the overage coverage. It's a lot. Normally, we would consider a little bit here and there if we had some hardship or practical difficulties. In this case, I'm not seeing any hardships or practical difficulties to even consider anything, let alone, you know, what you're asking for, 1.5 times size. So as the plans are submitted now and the size that you're asking for and the lack of practical difficulties and hardship, I can't approve the building, so, sorry.
Ed?
I brought up a couple of my concerns already is the livestock, and there is none on there right now. But yeah, looking at it, I also sitting on the planning commission, and if there's not been a conditional use permit for, you know, for all that construction equipment and being a construction yard or anything like that, I mean, that's something that should have been done. And it's a backlot to a lake. I mean, backlots, I'm not sure that were really intended for this type of use. I mean, most of the time they were for boat storage and for a shed and for sewers and that type. So, and for the overage that we're looking at, I mean, we just got done with one being oversized, and it's hard for me to do it, go along with it, with what I'm seeing, and I struggle with it. I don't know that I can go along with the variance for oversizing it this much.
Like I said, you know, as far as industrial setting, this is about 10 feet lower than my existing shed, and it's back behind. And the only way you'll be able to see it is if you just slightly glimpse as you drive down the road, you know. And that's what we tried to do. We could have tried to put one up closer to the road, but we didn't want to pollute the neighborhood, so to speak.
Yeah, but you have to understand, this is one lot in a whole county, and we have to treat everybody the same according to the ordinances that we have. And there are times when there are hardships, and there is reasons that we give variances and allow variances, but here there's already a shed on the property, and granted, there might be stalls in it and stuff, but that can be remodeled. I mean, trusses are there, you can knock walls out, you can tear concrete out. You know, if you're done with horses, or you're done with cows or pigs or whatever, I mean, everything can be remodeled. Houses can be remodeled and gutted, and sheds the same way, you know. If you're not using the shed for horses or anything else, then it's a useless shed, so you might as well remodel it. So to get a variance and go over this amount, we have to justify it here. We have to come up with a reason where there's a hardship, where there's a need for it, where it's benefiting the community, where it's benefiting the reason for giving a variance. And I don't see that. That's where I'm at for now.
Bob?
You know, rules are in place for everyone. We're not singling you out or anything like that. You know, there again, I'm new to this board, but I've already learned that, you know, you just can't just because I want doesn't mean I should get. The rules should apply. They apply for a reason. We've heard the reasons, and I guess I agree with those reasons.
Well, the neighbor to the left of them, one of the people that brought up the situation, most of that stuff they've been dragging in down the road. None of it's been built in place. They just haul it in as they want to. And I'm sure there's never anything that's ever been brought up about it, you know?
I mean, our place is probably the nicest place on that whole road. Like you said, the neighbor to the left, they've got so much crap back there and buildings and just broken down things.
Yeah, their
It's
shed
a
and
mess.
those garages.
And our
those
intention
sheds.
is just to try to keep our property looking good by keeping, things sheltered.
Well, our focus right now is toward what's being asked, and that is the overage coverage issue. And like, those issues are separate, and maybe that's something you could bring up with the township and get that conversation going. But for right now, this is what's before us, this is what we're asked to decide on, so just keep that in mind, so.
Okay,
You are aware, though, that you could remove some stuff and get up to 800 square foot of structure there? I think that was something Barry was saying, because I'd like to see you get it cleaned, and I wouldn't, come in for almost 1.5 times the size that's allowed. It is pretty tough, because we have to rule everything the same. But I did read through here that you had, if you remove some smaller structures, and you could get an 800 square foot building in there. And I think, I'm not gonna speak for everybody, but if it was like, instead of a 20 by 40, a 24 by 40, there might be some room around there to move it, especially if it benefits them by cleaning up the lot. I know you said you already did, but I know how important it is to get everything under roof. So I would have been, that's quite a bit less though, 24 by 40 instead of the size that you're asking for. So I guess I'd be, I don't know, I can't speak for the rest of the board, but a little bit would have been easier for me to swallow. That's a lot too much. Because like they said, we've got to deal with this with everybody, and we got a couple just before this was one, and we'll have other ones next month too. So unless you can adjust that size, get rid of some of the buildings and maybe come back for something a little more reasonable.
I just won't do it now,
Yeah, like, what would a 24 by 36 or something, that'd still be nice for storage.
Waste of time, That would be a waste of time, really, to do anything smaller than what I have here,
Cause, yeah, I feel like we have to be the same, and if there's no hardship, and really can't go that way.
okay, do I have any more up here? Okay.
Okay, so it sounds like the board isn't willing to grant the overage. The two options are to either request a withdraw, in which case the board would dismiss it, you would sign a form, and it's pretty much over, or you could request, or you, not request, but you could have the board deny it, in which case we'd continue the public hearing, they'd draft findings, the board would adopt them at their next meeting, and then that gets recorded against the abstract of the property. So it's kind of up to you which way you want the board to go with it. You could either dismiss, or you could have them deny. Either one is, it makes no difference to staff or the board. Those are just the options that you have.
The only thing is, if you ask for dismissal, it doesn't go on your abstract. But it just basically goes away.
So you could theoretically come back with a whole different new board, and they may see things differently.
The hearing is still a matter of public record, and the next board is going to get all this information. But it's not, again, it's not recorded against the abstract. Really, I shouldn't say the only, but generally, when the board does denials, it's the people want the denial because then they can appeal to district court, which is the only way to appeal the board's decision is to district court. And so that's generally what we see when people ask for denials, or it's a highly contentious one and the board just, we're not going to allow dismissal, we just need to deny it and then let whatever transpire. So
Or continue it and think about trying to get down
an
to
option.
that.
Yeah, that is the third option, is continue, come back with some type of revised proposal. So it's up to you how you want to proceed.
I guess just dismiss it.
Yeah, okay.
Dismiss.
Terry will have a form for you to sign.
Can we get copies of those neighbor letters?
Yes, you can. Yep.
I'll make a motion to dismiss without prejudice.
Second that.
Been moved and seconded, all in
Who's the
favor?
second? I'm sure.
Paul.
Okay.
Dan, Vic, aye.
Paul, aye.
John, aye.
And aye.
Bob, aye.
Thank you. I can either send them, or I can email them to you too. Okay, I'll do that. You're welcome, thank you. To Terry, please. Give your name to Terry. Names.
Stephen C. Alberg, Gregory P. Alberg.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, what we're dealing with is a property in Southside Township that is 33.679 acres. The request, I gotta get there. Oh, one thing about the virtual, I got so much stuff up that I forget to get to the next one. The request, we have a concept proposal and the property owners have a concept in mind here. What we're looking at is just on this plan, what is lot 3. And so the proposal is to attach the acreage from 8.2 acres that is shown as lot 3 to that, what was an entitlement division of a little over 2 acres, making it a entitlement division that it's two things. It exceeds 10 acres, and I believe that the total would be 10.2, or 10.22. And then the amount of road frontage that is with this property is less than the 300 feet that's required for a lot that is more than, or 5 acres or more in size. The request does not involve reducing the lakeshore, it's just, that's what's left. And so it's not like it's dividing the lakeshore, creating a new nonconformity. The 33 acres is nonconforming with the amount of lakeshore it has right now, but that's how things exist. So that is the reason why we're here is for those two things. We did receive approval from the township. I did not receive any comments from the public, and I do not have anyone on our virtual meeting from the public for this request. So that's what I got.
Okay.
It does not exceed the tillable. There is no tillable land on this at all, just for, just to satisfy Mr. Mall, because he's a stickler with that. So that's all I have.
Okay, so where are we at here now? Yeah.
I don't really see anything wrong. The only thing I would suggest is making sure that if possible to, on lot 3 and on Julia's property, that it becomes one lot, one.
Yeah, that's the intent, fully intention, and we're trying to divide up trust land equally, equitably between the three of us, and that land is kind of near and dear to our sister, who's lived there since the 90s.
Yep.
They basically assumed that Lakeshore as their own. Nobody really knew how this was gonna all unfold when Mom and Dad passed. And we're just trying to, as brothers, give them that's near and dear to their heart and just do a deed transfer directly over.
And the only other thing is the lot line, if you look at it, you're going around a wetland or a little wet hole there.
Right.
And then you come back down into their corner.
Can I explain?
Wouldn't it be easier just to go straight out so you have straight lines?
Absolutely. What we're contending with.
It's a concept at this point. Them lines could change.
Okay.
What we were contending with is not knowing that there was gonna be a variance issue involving that 300 feet of lakeshore.
Okay.
This has been going on for years, this discussion. And what we were trying to do is make it accessible. As you see, there's 2 lots that eventually probably go to the market, getting 300 feet of road frontage. Well, after the county's highway engineer went out and viewed it, and not allowing us to have 2 separate driveways along Montgomery Avenue, suddenly that weird little angle you're seeing there probably doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
We were just trying to come up with road frontage that was gonna satisfy the rules.
Like I said, I think it's a good thing if we can get, one common property number between, lot 3 and Julia.
If possible.
If possible, sometimes mortgages doesn't allow it, but if you can. And then my only suggestion would be just straighten the line, if possible. If the highway department, you can get your road frontages and stuff, I'm okay with it if you would just straighten the line.
Can I walk up to the map?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good. Would, this line were to go straight across here
Yep,
and that angle, would that be fine?
that's the way I would look at it.
Because we want to keep as much, frontage on this side as possible for that lot because there's other issues there.
Yeah, and that's the reason I was just looking at it. When you come down to a pie shape, whoever buys lot 2, you're coming into a pie shape, yeah, it's your property, but what can you really do with it?
I know.
Julie had asked to hang on to that little pothole.
Yeah. Well, you got wildlife and that kind of stuff or whatever.
I'm guessing their house looks out at it too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they'd have a little more control, she'd have a little more control over it if that lot sells to the north.
And I just look at the lot size. Lot 2 is already 14 acres. And Julie's would be like 10 point something. So what's the difference if you pull that up an acre and it turns hers into 11 and the other one into 13? I don't think the planning commission is going to view it any differently.
We would, Julie wouldn't have a problem with that either. And that makes sense to me too.
It was all just,
So,
just to keep the highway road frontage.
property happy. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, Bob?
I guess, kind of what Dan was saying, that makes sense. There's really limited uses for this property, with the wetlands and the wooded area. I don't, I guess I have no problem with it.
Okay. Ken?
I'll keep it short, I'm good.
Paul?
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable, solution to a problem, and I'm fine with it.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Did the last one.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the variance request of section 155.026, 15.048, G4C, and 155.057, chapter 155, title 15, land usage and zoning of Wright County Code of Ordinance to allow the expansion of the existing entitlement lot with the existing house that will not have minimum 300-foot, foot wide along the lake shore. If possible, we would like to see to join 8.2 acres with Julia Barrett's or PID number 2170002414110 combined together.
Would we add that possible of them straightening the line up too?
I think it,
The acreage might change, yeah.
yeah, I think we agree in the concept, you know.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Just one moment, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Certainly.
Yes, like add the conditions that was discussed earlier, that it should be combined under one tax ID number if possible. Otherwise, an administrative order would be required. And also subject to survey and a revised deed restriction as well. Is that, we wouldn't need the revised deed restriction if the administrative order is then required.
No.
But if it's combined under one PID, then we would need the revised deed restriction, correct? Or does the board's
Maybe
order
we should
suffice?
just do the order then.
Do a revised deed restriction? Or just do the administrative order?
Do the order.
Okay. So, subject to survey and administrative order.
So noted.
So that means that Julie will just have to sign a document indicating that she understands that the two properties are considered one, they can't be sold separately. So, once the survey work is done and we get the legal descriptions, we'll do a document, we'll contact her and she'll just have to have it notarized, her signature notarized.
Gary, do we include a condition that they have to be combined by the end of the year? I don't remember.
We have.
We probably, if you're trying to make them be one lot, we should require that by the end of the year.
Well, the only thing would be is that, sometimes these things don't occur immediately. That's the only.
Yeah, they can't do it till they pay taxes in full, but.
Right.
So I'm saying by the end of the year would be good if
What
they're
I'm
going to
saying
do
is
that.
If, in the process, it takes, another, year to fully realize the plan before they do any of the transfers, now we have a condition that isn't going to get met.
Let's say by the end of 2022 then, you think?
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Give them 2 years.
Okay, so noted.
I just didn't want to put
And then who is the second?
such a tight restriction on it.
I would.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, what if we do this? We say that they have to be combined with the auditor by the end of 2022 unless given an extension by the zoning administrator.
We can do that.
That way they don't have to come back for a simple change if they need another year.
Right.
Okay, we're good. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Dan Vick, aye.
All aye.
John, aye.
Dan Mall, aye.
Bob Newman, aye.
Good to go.
That's it.
Yeah, so for this piece, if you wanted to get all that rolling, you can get the survey work, get it to us, and you could actually have that done before you even bring the rezoning and stuff to the
That was
plan
my
commission.
question.
Yep,
We want to keep the ball rolling.
Go for it.
Thinking of getting in the planning and zoning next schedule and get their surveyor rolling right away.
go down and talk, well, I'd say give Stacy a call, she's not in the office today.
Okay.
And she'll let you know the process for getting that application rolling.
Actually, I think I've got it other than writing the check.
I think you brought it with when you came in the first time,
Just
so.
getting the surveyor going.
Okay, have a good day, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let her get all situated.
Go ahead.
Ralph Erickson.
All right, you ready? This is the Ralph and Jill Erickson request. It is in French Lake Township. Involves, there's kind of two portions to this request. It's a 52-acre parcel. It has an entitlement available to it, and the applicants are looking to divide the entitlement on a piece of lake shore. Let me see. And similar to that last one, what it does is it leaves the remaining portion of the property without the 300 feet. And so anytime a division is made, both the division and the remainder need to have the minimum required frontage. So in this case, because of the size of the remainder, it's 300 feet. The lot itself doesn't have 300 feet, but it isn't required to. At an acre and a half, it's allowed to have 150 feet. And I believe it's 158.
200.
Oh, is it 200? Okay, all right. Trying to think of the survey, I don't have it up here. We do have a survey of the lot itself. There is one issue with the roads here, is that these roads are not official township roads. And so in order to get the required frontage, they're gonna need to build up the road to whatever specification the township has, and then the township will have to agree to take it over, which we do have township's response saying that, yes, they are willing to do all that. These things are, what's out there now is pretty close to a township road already. I mean, it's fairly wide, fairly well built. This is Sylvia, this is sand. It's not like you're going through some mucky, heavy stuff where you gotta over excavate, bring in a bunch of material. The base here is good to start with, and so there's less that needs to be done to it. And the township response is if Pittman and 60th Street are brought up to county standards, French Lake will take over maintenance as a township road. And so that would then provide them with the required frontage that is needed. And then they also did a separate order for the variance for the lot and the frontage, and also the other portion of this request is in the process. They've approached a neighbor about bringing their lot out to what will now be a township road. And so there's about a 0.5 acre lot line adjustment to attach to the Hall property. And so that is both pieces of the request. The division is one, the lot line adjustment adding into the Hall lot is another. So as noted, I do have the township response for both of those. They have approved and have indicated they're willing to take over the road. I did not get any other neighbor responses, and I do not have anyone on the virtual meeting for this request. Just as a kind of a note, we did get soil borings, and it's Sylvia sand. There's 2 type 1 sites that can fit within this this lot, that the 1.54 acre lot, or sorry, yeah.
And they already agreed to update the road to get this to go through?
What was the comment, Barry, on the bluff?
Well, there is bluff on the property, and so we just need to make sure, you know, those are all zoning requirements. And so once there's a bluff on the property, you know, any structure has to meet the lake setback. So in this case, or the bluff setback. So in this case, you know, I mocked it out. I buffered where the bluff line is and buffered where the road is and center line of the road is. And I make sure there's enough buildable area. In this case, there's buildable area for a fairly decent sized house. There are some tree removal restrictions, you know, within the bluff itself. You know, you can't clear cut it. You can selectively cut or cut dead and diseased trees and brush it, but you can't just clear cut a big wide swath for a view. That is something that is actually prohibited in our ordinance, and the board doesn't have to necessarily condition it. But the comment on the bluff was just indicating that although there is slope here, there's room to build a house without needing variances.
Okay.
From those setbacks.
Is that it?
That's all I have.
Okay. Bob?
Well, we should go to the applicants, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, sorry, folks.
Well, I think
Any other
Barry did a really
comments?
good job of describing what we're trying to do here. I do have a smaller version if you wanted to see that up close, just kind of see what we're doing, but
We
we
have
talked to the
it.
neighbors and Skip Hall and trying to work out that other parcel and joining that. So it's a good plan for all.
Okay. All right, Bob?
Well, I think the lake frontage, I think there's other lakes, other properties on Lake Sylvia that probably have less than 300 feet.
Lots of them.
Yeah, and so I really don't have a problem with the amount of lakeshore frontage. As long as they have room to get away from the bluff and build on top of the bluff and room for their septic, I'm good with it.
Okay,
Likewise, he states my concerns.
go ahead.
I got a few questions here. I know the township would like to maintain the road and once it's brought up to specifications. So I'm just looking for some clarity. Who's going to bring that road up to specification? Because it didn't sound like the township was. They would agree to maintain it. So my concern is one, who's going to bring the road up to specification? And what assurances do we have that the road will be brought up to the township standards? You know, I mean, right now it's talk, but I'm looking for a little more concrete. It looks good, but.
We've talked with Nathan Turning out of Cokato, who's done a lot of work for French Lake. They like his work. And he's kind of given us what it would take to do it, to put a hammerhead up in there and to make it happen. And
I mean, it's a lot of work to get a road up there, and it costs a lot of money, and so I'm a little concerned, you know, I mean, have the neighbors all been brought up to speed on this? Are they I mean, has there been a lot of discussion publicly about this? Because I'm a little concerned that if I did go ahead, which is a good idea, I mean, it's reasonable, and I have no problems with it, but all of a sudden, it stops. The road doesn't get upgraded.
Yeah.
And, you know, the guy down the street don't want to pay, or the bunch of neighbors don't want to pay. And so that's my concern, so
well, we wouldn't get a permit with it.
Well, and that's the thing, if that is a concern,
Yeah.
then you condition it.
Okay.
The property can't transfer until a letter is received from the township indicating the road is to their standard and that they take over maintenance. That's what we do in all of our plats.
Okay.
We don't start issuing permits in a plat or any type of other subdivision that requires roads until we get approval from the governing body of the road that it's to their liking and they're willing to take over maintenance.
Okay, good, I'm satisfied with that.
I just, you know, because I want to do is the road will come down here and then a hammerhead will go in here to serve the property and maintain
Okay.
it. So this is where the county will take it up to there and out to there.
So, and then my final question is the driveway. Do you have the driveway issue resolved? Because it looks like currently the driveway goes through that property to serve another house.
Yeah.
Will there be a new driveway or shared or? what?
It'll be shared. We're gonna move that driveway further south and kind of in exchange, then they'll be getting that,
Take it off the hammerhead. And,
triangle piece
Okay.
of land, so it's already been
Okay.
agreed upon.
and the homeowner, in all honesty, the only little concern he has is when he's coming up into there that he can make the turn to the hammerhead.
Yep.
And that's the only, you know, and we just,
He called me and asked me about that, and I said, you need to work it out with you guys, make sure it's workable for both of you, and he,
Yeah, sounds
which
like
is a little bit the plus of giving him that depth of his lot too.
good. Sounds like you're on your way to a good plan, so I'm for it.
Yeah, I'm with some of the concerns Paul brought up. It looks like a good plan, and as long as some of those things have been taken care of, the township and stuff, that's the main thing.
Okay. Bob?
He started.
He started. Okay, Paul? You're done? Dan's done?
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, we're all done. Okay. I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the request for section 155.026 E2, 155.048 F, 4C, and 155.057 of chapter 155, title 15, land and use zoning of Wright County Quarter Ordinance to allow the residential entitlement division that will leave less than 300 feet on West Sylvia. Also a lot line adjustment to approximately a half acre for the Erickson property, with the condition that the road is met to the county or township standards.
Okay, it's been motion second?
I'll second it. Oh.
okay, and then, no, go ahead, second, and then I just have,
Yes, okay.
yeah, and as mentioned, approval of the road and approval of the road and maintenance by the township should be submitted to the county prior to the division taking place. The division itself is subject to survey and deed restriction.
Okay.
And then the attachment to the hull lot is also subject to survey and either an administrative order or the tax parcels being combined under one tax ID number.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Dan Vick, aye.
Paul, aye.
John, aye.
Dan Mall, aye.
Bob Newman, aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll get the table, Terry.
Okay,
I have it.
for the record. Tim?
Yeah, Tim.
Okay.
Barry?
Yeah, just give me just 1 second here, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Mr. Chairman, what we have is a 53.5 acre property in Rockford Township. The property currently is zoned general agriculture. He was before the planning commission earlier this year that at one time the entire property except for the little triangle to the north were zoned R2A. And that was part of a subdivision request, and so the entire property was rezoned, but only 1 or 2 lots were divided out of it using that zoning. And what it left is the house and the lake and the river frontage on one side of the highway and all the other property on the other opposite side. And so because of road frontage requirements, the lake or the riverside portion couldn't be separated from the rest because the rest doesn't have 300 feet in one contiguous spot. It's got a couple of different spots of road frontage, but neither of them are the 300-foot requirement. And so the property was, let me back up just a bit. By ordinance, the planning commission can't create a non-conforming lot, and so they couldn't apply to the planning commission to make that a lot. And the Board of Adjustment is prohibited from granting that type of adjustment or approval. And so the property was dezoned back to general agriculture. He went through that process a couple of months ago. And so now, by ag standards, those things are now variable. And so that's what we're here for this piece, is to divide that portion south and east of the highway from the remainder of the property, leaving the remainder without the 300-foot road frontage requirement. So that is the crux of what this board is doing. The applicant has some other concept plans here that he'll probably take up with the planning commission at some point. But this request is just for the separation of that house piece that lies between the river and the road. The applicant has not met with the township yet. However, like I say, this is something that has been through a couple of different things, and I believe it was discussed with the township potentially at the dezoning, but they did continue it for discussion because the applicant did not attend their last meeting. So that's all I have. I don't have anyone on the virtual meeting, and so I guess we can turn over to the applicant and if he's got anything more to add.
Not much more than that. We purchased the property about 2 years ago, and then we rehabbed the house that was there. And then we came, I think, to this board and got a variance for the garage that we had installed on the north side. And made the improvements there, so then we moved into the house, and so we're just trying to separate that river side of the property, or the side that's on the river, from the other side, so we can have separate titles to the property through an LLC that we have. Riverside Park. As it is, and you'll see the triangle over there is separate from the other piece, and we're, get separation, then we combine the triangle with the other.
One less tax statement.
Okay,
So by combining that triangle, then you meets the 300 feet and everything?
No, it still doesn't meet the 300
Oh, I
feet,
thought
but he intends to combine the triangle with the rest.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean, they're considered one piece, they're just two separate tax IDs based on transfer history. And so it has to stay owned with the other because it's landlocked, it has no frontage at all.
Sure.
And so it really, the combining them is just a good thing to do. Reduces the number of tax statements and gets everything under one tax ID, which is a good thing. Not necessarily required, but we prefer it. But because they're considered one anyway, it's just a good thing to do. And
I didn't know if
there's
that
no
road
reason
ran
not
all
to.
the way down there or not, but yeah, I'm okay with the concept. I think, looks like you have no sense not to.
Paul?
You know, dividing the property makes sense to me, but I do have some concerns, and I'm not quite sure how to address it. Because we have a shortage of 300 feet, if I'm not mistaken, on Jansen Avenue, that part there is pretty steep. I guess one of the questions I have is what access point? It looks like you have 3 different access points to a road. Which one of those would you use? Because I would not want to see Jansen Avenue is a pretty busy road with limited, I think I have an issue there. And so that was my question for you there.
Well, the concept that I ran by with Paul Otto, because he be a continuation of the neighborhood. There, that's a cul-de-sac that we're up against.
Okay.
And then that county road, Township Road.
Township Road.
Through the property and then come back out on 20th.
Okay, so you have thought about it then, and you've ruled out Jansen Avenue. That's fine.
Now, we do have an access point on Jansen right now, but it's mainly just a track farm road to get back to the bull barn.
Okay, no, you answered my questions and concerns. Thank you.
So to clarify that, up there in the north, where that little turnaround is, that comes up and touches your property?
Yeah, actually, if you see in the corner, it looks like the neighbor's driveway is overlapping on our property as well. So there is a round circle cul-de-sac.
Okay.
Pavement actually, lots or not, it's hard to.
That also would be a concern if it doesn't abut it, your property, then it's, somebody else's property between you and the road. But yeah, no, as far as what we're looking at doing here, I don't think we'd be creating any other issues.
So that's kind of the concept plan, that at some point in the future, if he decides to develop it, either come back to the planning commission or however, but that is, kind of a futuristic outlook on what a potential development could look like there. So, just as you can see, yes, it does abut, Erig Avenue does abut the property over here, and then it would just extend it down to 20th Street versus, like you say, Paul, coming out to Jansen, to County Road 20.
Okay. Bob?
And there's no additional building or anything that's going to be done on the riverside?
No.
And that's the part that you're going to own personally, is that
Yeah,
if I'm
we have a pole
correct?
barn there now that we're happy with. We did some floor in that. Garage on that.
From what I can remember, I do believe if the river setback, which is 200 feet, and the highway setback, which is 130, don't overlap, it's a really small area, so it's pretty difficult to build anything compliant within this. In fact, as you mentioned, last year, 2019, he was before the board to expand the house with garage. And so, just about any construction on that side will have to come back to the board because it just is not much room there. This is, actually it's the Crow River, so I think it's only 100 feet, but it's still really tight for setbacks. Not impossible, I don't think, but it's tight.
Okay. Okay, do I hear a motion? Motion, man?
I'll make a motion To approve the variance request of section 155.026, 155.048, F4C, and 155.057 of Chapter 155, Title 15, Land Usage and Zoning of Wright County Code of Ordinances to allow the separation of the 8.285 acres with the existing house lying between the county road and the river from approximately 32 acres lying west of the road. The remainder of PID number 215-000-094400 with 215-000-094200 will be combined as one restricted lot of record.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Barry?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just it's subject, since this is an ag property, this is an entitlement division, it is subject to survey and deed restrictions. So get the survey, get it into our office, we'll prepare a document that you would sign, assigning the entitlement and the house to that piece and restricting the other piece from further development under the ag standards. There again, the rezoning and that kind of stuff is stuff that still can be pursued, but it's just not allowed a house as an entitlement.
Okay.
So noted. Yes, so noted.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Dan Vic, aye.
Paul, aye.
John, aye.
Dan Mall, aye.
Bob Newman, aye. All right, ready to go.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Have a nice day.
I got you figured out. You just pimping me.
Names to Terry, please.
For the record, could you give your names?
Names to Terry.
Go ahead.
James Nelson, representing Faribault Foods.
And Mark Clampy?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, what we have is the Faribault Foods property, which this portion that's within Cokato Township is roughly 224 acres. It's separated into 7 different tax parcel numbers. And so the request is to do a lot line adjustment that combines properties in a specific fashion, I guess is the best way to put it. So on this one, it's what's in green is proposed as one parcel, and what is in blue is proposed as a second parcel. It's a lot line adjustment. Everything has proper frontage. Entitlements, there's a bunch. No, there aren't many. There's only 1 or 2 left. Is there 3?
I think there's 3, depending on, there's a conditional use permit or variance.
Oh, right.
On the one property, which essentially goes away because we
Right.
have discontinued the spray field operation.
Okay. And so, I mean, part of this too is I guess it wasn't, nothing that was given to me says, okay, there's gonna be 1 here and 2 here, or they're gonna be split. I think my research indicated that there are 2, but if, I'd have to look, and I'll do that. I don't know why I didn't do that earlier. And I think I did, I just not remembering right. I'll look at it. But the board should spell out, or the applicant should spell out where the entitlements are going, so we don't have those questions later. I don't want somebody to buy, you know, the larger acreage, and they have a bunch, and they don't, you know, and then we get thrown in the middle of something that we don't want to be dealt with, or have to deal with, so we'd rather have that clarified and determined now. So, I don't have anybody on the virtual meeting, and we did receive approval from the township. Let's actually actually the next one, sorry. Yeah. So yes, we did receive from the township and no other comments. So yeah, if they want to continue to explain, I'm going to look up some of that entitlement information right away if I can here.
You have anything to add, or?
No, just the objective here is to keep kind of the buildings that are on the property on one parcel, and then the balance be virtually mostly ag land.
Okay. All right. Paul?
Yeah, I don't have any objections. The only thing that I would want to have is that to make sure that we have all the affected parcels be joined under one parcel for each tract, reducing the number of tax parcels from 7 down to 2. And then the other one is Barry's working on is maybe we could clarify on where these entitlements would go for the future. So those are the only two things that I like to see done. Other than that, it looks good.
And I agree the parcels should be put together because of the way the land lays. I mean, there's 80 acres in there that has no road frontage or anything like that. So, I mean, that's very important that we maintain as one and it doesn't get split up and all of a sudden we create.
And that's why we separate it as it is to, ensure, access off the road. There is access on the east side on that parcel 1 as well through the, that is township property, that little corner east there. That does butt up, if you see, there's a narrow strip of land, it's 33 feet wide that butts up to a city of Cokato street. So there is access to the east side of that parcel, as well.
The one I'd be concerned about is the one down on parcel 2, down in the middle.
Right.
Make sure that we don't lose access for that and proper road frontage.
Correct, right.
Okay, so.
Yeah, and I guess we had just envisioned that's gonna be sold as, we're selling the property,
Yeah.
Farmland.
Right.
Okay.
I have no additional comments. I think the plan looks reasonable.
Okay, Barry, anything else?
Give me just a moment.
I have really no concern other than that the Minnesota Department of Transportation, that guidelines all followed. I see that they got something about directing runoff water or something.
Actually, I put it in this file, but that's actually for the last one.
Oh, okay.
They did.
I was just reading that. And I'm like,
Yeah, and the reason why it got a little confusing even for me was that he sent this and then he says, oh, I see there's one down there. And so should I comment on that one? And I said, well,
Okay.
no, because none of this property actually abuts
that's what I thought, but.
the highway. Just give me just one moment, Mr. Chairman.
Good.
Oh, he's,
Oh, okay.
we're waiting on.
Yep.
For entitlements.
Are you up, Paul?
How about you? Yeah, talk.
Okay, in the notes from our staff that does the entitlement research, there are 2. The one that is tied up in that conditional use permit, so whether or not the conditional use permit is valid or active, it doesn't, if it stops being used, the conditional use permit no longer exists, it doesn't add an entitlement.
Okay.
It's still one, so and is that the request, is to have one each way? One on each, or 2 on one?
No,
One on each, okay. So I would just have that as a condition, that one entitlement will go to each of the
How
parcels.
did that property only end up with 2 entitlements being?
They were all sold off before Fairbolt Foods bought it. They were all transferred and moved around before Fairbolt Foods actually bought it. Yeah. Looking at our half-section maps, a realtor they kind of clustered them on the south end of the property. When Jeff Campbell, I think it was Jeff Campbell, that was a realtor at the time representing whoever the owners were, used them all on the southern end of the property. In fact, they needed a variance for the one lot.
Sure. Yep.
So, yeah, so a condition would be, that, it would be to, one entitlement would go to each parcel, in this one, whoever wants to make a motion, we could use this as an exhibit A, according to Exhibit A, with each parcel containing one entitlement. Terry, I don't believe we would necessarily need any document, or,
I think I already checked about combining, and we can do it probably through the auditor's office. That isn't a platted lot to the east, is it, that small piece? That's a PID, that's a.
It's not platted, no.
Unplatted,
no,
right?
I believe this is all meets and bounds.
Yeah,
I
okay.
believe I can.
I thought so too, but. So we should be able to do it through the auditor.
Yeah, and the attachment that the applicant had submitted kind of bears out the tax parcel numbers, so. If you want, if the board wishes, I can kind of summarize for you.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah.
All right, so a potential motion could be for the board to approve the lot line adjustment as requested, with parcel 1 to contain tax parcel 20500332100, 20500332101, and 20500331204. This is approximately 46 acres and would contain one building entitlement. Parcel 2 would be 20500332300, 20500332400, 20500331200, and 20500333100. That would also contain one entitlement, and as per Exhibit A, which is the aerial photo provided, both, actually, we'll use Exhibit B as provided by the applicant as Exhibit A.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Dan made the motion, all right?
I'll second it.
All seconds. All in
Take the
favor?
easy one, gee.
Dan Vig, aye.
Paul, aye.
John, aye.
And all aye.
Bob Newman, aye.
All right, thank you guys.
Yep, thank you. Good day.
Can't say much.
Mr. Chairman, if you will, this is the Brian Anderson request. I have Mr. Anderson on the virtual meeting, and so I'll just jump in here and start rolling. Mr. Chairman, if you will, the property is in Maple Lake Township. The board actually very recently approved a back lot out of a piece of property in the Maple Crest subdivision. So this map, the lot line adjustment that was previously done doesn't necessarily come out of this, you don't see it yet. But this is basically now to do backlots for the rest of all the properties here. It was one of those things that kind of came up. We had an applicant that wanted to do it. No one else stood up and said, you know, we wanted to do it at the time, but then they read it and they get the notices, hey, we'd all like to do this. So now they've all kind of formed up and are now requesting backlots of their own. And so we did, just as we do with any situation like this where we're getting multiple applicants, I gave this applicant a form that basically says it's an intent to purchase the back lot, and it lists out normal general restrictions the board has applied to these in the past. So we've done a number of these. We did one of these platted last year with 5 lots for Mr. Lampy on Granite Lake. And so these are things we run into maybe once a year, maybe once every other year. This time we just happen to have a couple that are fairly close for these multiple strings. The council and myself and our other staff went through it, and when we get numbers this size, and I've talked to the applicant, staff are going to request that we have this platted because it's gonna be much easier both for staff and for the property owners in the future when dealing with these. So, I mean, as a legal description, to do a lot that is this size, you have to come from a half a mile away. So your legal description gets huge and cumbersome and confusing and is prone to any types of typos and mistakes that become title issues and you have to correct. And so platting it, it's pretty easy. It's gonna be, you know, lot 1, block 1 of, you know, Maple Crest second edition or whatever they decide to name it. We're not in charge of naming. But we are requesting that the board does require platting of these because it's gonna make it easier for everybody in the future. It is a little bit more expensive on the applicant's part. He has been talking to the surveyors about the differences between the two and they're aware of it. And so that's kind of where we're at. We did get township approval. I have two things. I have kind of a concept that was drawn up at one point that kind of shows that this one is kind of nice because it shows how the corresponding lakeshore lots kind of are positioned. And then they also have that preliminary survey work from the concept plan, but it doesn't kind of show you the relation to the lakeshore lots where this one did. So I included them both in this presentation because they both show just a little bit different things. This one's pretty exact as to what it is, but this also adds in that other aspect of it. So, and there have, I do believe from the one we're seeing now, there have been just a few minor adjustments on how angles and that kind of thing, giving some leeway. And so what we have, I believe, is 15 proposed backlots and 14 of the owners have submitted intents to purchase. The one that isn't, and as we've done in other ones like this, is okay, if one person doesn't want to purchase, it can be picked up by one of the neighboring, but they can only pick up one. It's not like they can own a string of these and then there are restrictions on what they can do with it. They can own it, but they're going to be restricted on what they could build on it, what they could do with it. A lot of these, just based on the area and what we're dealing with, it's going to be difficult to put a lot of stuff on these because it does fall off. There is a large wetland complex there. The ones farther to the south a little bit better, the ones to the north a little bit less. Some of them aren't very wide, but it's not impossible. I mean, it could be possible to put some type of small storage shed or something over there to help alleviate some of the pressures on the smaller lots. I hesitate to call these lakeshore lots because Donley Drive runs in between these properties and the lake. And as you can see, kind of some of the property lines in here are a bit kittywampus, and that's due to this plat is extremely old, 1900s. And it doesn't account for when 55 came through. And when 55 came through, monumentation and where stuff was measured from all changed, and all these lines got kind of a little bit messed up. And as slowly as time has gone on, some of these have been adjusted as staff rather than running them through a lot line adjustment to adjust these. We've been allowing them to do it just administratively through surveys. And some of them then become Torrens because of title history and other things. So it's been kind of a little bit of a interesting time out here. It's even worse when you get farther to the south. There's a bunch of lots south of this yet. And it's even worse down there as far as where property lines show and where they actually exist. So this is pretty much it. And kind of what the process for this would likely be is something where the board would give concept approval. Final approval would be, the applicants wouldn't have to come back. It would be submitting the Mylars of the plat. And then there's a spot on there for the board signature, and we would put it on the agenda once that's done. And the approval would then be the signature. And so we'd put it on. You'd have to make a motion to formally approve the plat and then just sign it. So that's what we're looking for in this one. If you're willing to go with this, then it would be concept approval, which gives then the applicant the ability to move forward with all of the survey work that is then required. As with most backlots, we usually like these to have some type of septic component. And so what we did do is we did get borings. They're not every lot. It's about every other lot we have a soil boring, indicating what type of septics can go here. And as you can see in the report, I mean, the soils will support septics. We don't know if every lot will, because of setbacks and other things, but the soils do allow septics to be installed here of some type. They might not all be type 1s, they might be type 3 or 4s, but it could be a thing where, well, it's better than the holding tank that we have across the street. So it gives the ability to, we didn't want to get into the cost of designing septics on 15 lots when some of them might not even use it for that. So we just wanted a general soil sample from the area indicating, yeah, it's not like it's muck or peat or something that we're running into that's a problem. It is possible. So we did get that work done, so it is possible. I did include in your packets, basically a condition sheet that we attach to these. And that's something that the board could reference as well, because, and I redid it for this. If you're going to approve it, this is generally the conditions and the stuff we put on it, so. Brian, do you have anything more to add?
Yeah, thank you, Barry, and good morning, the council or board. That's really it. We're just looking to get those back lots. All the owners, property owners, are aware that the lot is primarily going to be used for a septic, and that if anything else is going to be built on it, it has to preserve a septic site. Honestly, there's very few lots that have enough space to put anything on them anyway, to be quite honest. I've heard a few folks say they want to put gardens. A couple folks want to move their holding tanks to a septic system back there. Other than that, I don't think anybody's really planning on building on them. That's really all I have.
Okay.
Barry, I just had a couple of questions.
Sure.
Maybe you're gonna, I'm sure a couple of the board members will bring it up too, but some of the lots looked a little smaller. I'm just wondering about setbacks in the future. Like one of them, I think the concept had it at 35 feet, and then that one way at the end. Doesn't look like anything's really gonna be able to fit on that one with that triangle piece. So, just wondering what your thoughts are.
Well, yeah, generally those aren't, overly desirable, but there's a lot there. And if they have limited parking, that's something they could always, we're coming for the weekend, we want to mow, we want to park back there, or, versus parking on the road, or we have, the kids are home from college, rather than parking on the street, it gives them a place to park. I wouldn't go so far as to say unusable. It's limited, extremely limited, but
yes.
What do you do with that corner piece? Yeah, you can add it into the next one, but what's it hurting adding it, giving someplace for somebody to, park a car, or, do a garden, or, dump their grass clippings if they want a spot to compost grass clippings. I mean, that one's a really tough one, especially that lot to really.
And that last lot there, if you look at it on the actual final plot, not the final plot, but the proposed plot, we've actually aligned that lot line a little differently. So it actually, that old lot there, it gets a little bigger, not a great deal, but it makes it more usable.
Oh, I see it now that Barry has it up. Yeah, that does look a little bit better than what I saw, I think, on the first hand-drawn plot.
Right.
So, yeah, I just want the board to be aware. I mean, as you know, we approve these things with good insight, and then, like what Barry said, kind of what we're thinking here, and then someone will come in and want literally a 30 by 30 foot garage on a 35-foot parcel. So, and then we'll get a variance request on it.
I've made it very clear to everybody, all the property owners, that that's not possible. I pointed out in the actual intent to purchase where it's clearly defined that you have to preserve for a septic site and everything else. So everybody is aware that they can't build anything back there, of any, except for maybe one or two lots are even large enough to put anything back there.
And for the most part, I've been involved in, I would say, somewhere between 100 and 200 of these types of lots. And for the most part, it's been pretty good as far as, people following the restrictions. I'm not going to say I've never had to deal with anything on any of them, but for the most part, the restrictions are followed pretty well. And so, this is nice because when people buy them, we have documentation, and there's restrictions that are right in there that they can get, and they know what they are. So it tends to be less of an issue than, if somebody just, buys a piece of property, they don't have that written in one spot. Well, these are all my restrictions. In this case, when they purchase them, they know what those restrictions are. They signed a form saying, I know what these are. And so we actually, from a compliance standpoint, it hasn't been bad. So I will say that much. I've been doing this for 16 years, so it's not bad.
No, and Barry, I would agree with you on that. I mean, it's not bad. Part of me bringing this up too is so that we have a discussion as part of the minutes, so that it's documented, so Brian knows, hey, the board looked at it, they discussed it, and so if something happens in 20, 25 years, they can see what the board was talking about. So that's part of the reason why I also bring this up, just so that there's a record of it.
Good deal. So, what does the board think?
I do recognize that there are a few lots that are very, very limited, but overall, I think the plan serves the greater good for the surrounding communities in the future, and I'm for the concept plan. And
I know Mr. Vick had a question. Do you still have that question?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought the same as Greg there, that, we could, I was wondering if it had to be exact size coming off the lot, or if could you take 10 feet off A and give it to B, and 10 feet off of D and give it to C? Kind of even them all out a little bit more so that they're more usable?
That is completely under the board's discretion. We don't have, I think we've talked about this when we were dealing with the Lampy one last year. There is nothing in our ordinance that expressly allows this. In fact, if you really wanted to push for interpretation, it prohibits it. Our ordinance does not allow the creation of restricted lots. Unless it's the remainder of when an entitlement is divided. However, a long time ago, the zoning administrator and staff at the time realized the value of these when dealing with so many small lakeshore lots and variance requests. There's just so limited area that we have a policy where the board can do this. And so there is nothing specifically written to say they have to do this or have to do that. It's all up to the board's discretion. The same with the conditions that are on that paper and on the intent to purchase. Those are all at the board's discretion. I write those up because that is what we've done for every one of these that we've had for the past, since about '03, when we started platting the back lots. We started with these types of conditions. The board set the condition, and now we've kind of used that as the template, and just anytime we're dealing with these, okay, here, it's right here. This is likely what your conditions are going to be, and that's what the property owners get. And so, no, the answer is no. They don't have to specifically follow. They don't have to follow at the same angles. It is open, but it's generally desired, because what we don't want to get into is a pissing match between property owners. Well, one owner wants this much more, and then it leaves this guy with this much, and that property sells. Well, why didn't I get the width of my lot? And so it's used as a general guide to make things honestly simple. You roughly follow your lines. Now, if the angles move a little bit, because like in this case, they changed it on the second version to give that lot a little bit more to work with.
And we also modified Lot 6. Lot 6 had the biggest lot. It was even over what Barry recommended, and we gave Lot 5, we actually moved that line over. Otherwise, to Barry's point, everything kind of aligns with the lot lines except for those two lots.
Yeah, because I would think you would try to get the smaller lots would need the back lot more so for future.
Exactly, they do, right? Some of the back lots don't, or some of the smaller lots don't even have, they have holding tanks, so.
Yeah. Well, as long as it ain't in stone, I mean, I'm okay with the concept of it. It just, I would think it would be favorable for everyone to sell them too, to make them more usable. But yeah, I think the back lot's a great idea.
Well,
I would say stated, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's been on my same page. If it's platted, why can't we, or why couldn't we squeeze in, like Lot 6 up there is large, and, you get some of them, as long as the property touches their lot, a good portion of it. But then it would also take some of these bigger lots down in size, and it would make them more restrictive, because otherwise, exactly what Barry had mentioned, you get a couple of these bigger lots, with the square footage on them, and all of a sudden they're putting a shed up, or a bigger shed, where the other ones don't have that ability.
Well, one of the issues here is that the board approved a very big backlot there already that squeezes the ones to the northeast.
Yeah, exactly.
But there again, the board,
But that was approved, and that was
Yeah.
taken care of at the time
Yep.
under those circumstances, and now this is what's here. So by looking at it, can we make some of these back lots, you know, like,
It might be, wouldn't be the easiest thing, because the area where it's the most, it seems to be the most, critical isn't the right word, but the most likely to occur has a lot of smaller lots crammed in. And so although, like here, it's block 2, lot 2 is bigger than all the other lots around it, but you can't squeeze it a whole lot. I mean, you can incrementally maybe make some improvements, but.
and I guess that's what I'm saying, is to try to, basically what I'm trying to say is squeeze down some of these bigger lots and share a little bit with a couple of, I mean, like 2 and 3, they probably they're gonna be 2 and 3.
Right.
But where you could maybe squeeze 5 over on 6 a little bit, or 7 over to open up 8, you know, just to open a few. I mean, there's a couple of them there, yeah, you're not gonna be able to move them.
But I would say, let them
Decide.
kind of, as long as this concept, if this is what they want to finalize, I just want the board to be okay with it. If they want to make some minor adjustments, they can submit it to me. I will just make sure that we have some area that overlaps, and I don't see anything that's out of the norm or out of what I would consider logical. I guess as long as the board trusts me to do that, I wouldn't have it come back just for that type of revision. I would just say, oh, yep, that looks good, just go with it. So,
On Dan's note though, even 2 and 3 could be moved 10 feet to D and A, and there, you got a 60, 60, 60, 70. Then move E over towards F and give them 70 or 60. Straighten it out. So that's pretty easy there. Take a little from G and A.
but at the same time, these ones have more high ground than the ones on the other end. So these, probably it's not as critical. Because the ones on the western side, it's actually a little bit higher ground. And so the ones where it's a little more critical is where that strip between the road and the wetland are smallest. And that is what really cramps down, where the ones on the opposite end, although they don't appear, they appear less deep, there's actually more usable area in the area that they have, because there's no wetland in it. So that part of it, from me looking at it, especially when you look here, that looks to be just about good, you know, from 1 to 9 in block 1. Block 2, I could see adjusting it 5-10 feet on some of these, maybe, you know, adjusting the angle of the lines to kind of help out maybe.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that's where I could see the most, you know, if there's gonna be adjustments, that's the most logical area in my
Can I
mind.
ask this question? What's the setbacks on the side lots, on those back lots?
10 feet?
10 feet. So you go 10, 10, you're down to 30 feet. Yeah, I guess you could get a decent shed there. Unless 30 is 50 foot.
30 wide.
Yeah, 10 on each side.
I mean,
That's where that 10 feet would help.
That's one of the things that I'm saying with opening them up or squeezing them a little bit, because you know they're gonna wanna put something back there for a boat. You know,
Or even a little garden shed for, you know, your life jackets and fishing poles and.
So, my concern is not to create something where every one of these guys have to come back for variance to us.
Right.
And I'm not trying to create work for us.
No.
Yeah.
I wanna make sure that the lots are wide enough that you can get a reasonable
Shed in there.
that they can, and I know reasonable was a carefully chosen word.
I was just thinking, well, you know, you're not making me any revenue here.
Yeah.
Throw a boat and, yeah. Needs room.
No, which is fine. I try to avoid having people come before us
Yeah.
as much as I can. If they have an option without having to come before us, I push that option.
So Barry, are you anticipating a preliminary review before final, or is this kind of it, or what are you thinking?
I'm envisioning this kind of being it. Like I say, if there are some minor adjustments, unless I see something that is, you know, that the board, I can see it being a potential issue or something that, you know, the board doesn't normally do or that creates another issue. I would say, as long as the board's comfortable, have those revisions run through me, and if they're good, they can just then continue with the survey work and getting it through the planning process. I would prefer just to have this kind of concept approval subject to the conditions that were attached, and then final approval of that and being at the time that the Mylars are submitted for board signature.
Sure. Sure. Barry, and for the board chair, I guess the one comment I would add here is if the board is thinking that they want to see the revisions come back, I probably would recommend that you just continue the public hearing, not make an approval right now. That way, if Brian does have changes that he wants to bring back to the board, he doesn't have to make a new application. Just a procedural thing to think about. I mean, if there are going to be changes, just maybe we continue it. Brian can work on those changes, but we can give him kind of a verbal, nod and a wink that it looks good. But if you're going to make changes, let's,
That's kind of what I was thinking, is to give concept approval and continue this for final approval at the time the Mylars are prepared, but that it still leaves the public hearing open so that if I need to have it come back to the board to review those, the hearing's still open, I can still do that.
Yeah. Well, Barry, we got to have it come back for preliminary approval. Final is just when they sign the Mylars. So, yeah. So if the board's good at the concept, I would recommend that you just continue it, or I guess make that notation into the record and then just continue it for further discussion.
And final approval?
Well, it'd be, I guess when we're dealing with the planning commission, we always do preliminary, because once we do preliminary, then they can go on and they can actually print the Mylars. And then final approval is just a ministerial act of just approving.
Well,
done.
let's ask the applicant. Brian, do you want to discuss any potential changes with the surveyor and the property owners?
No, I don't. We've already discussed with all the property owners. They're aware of the size of the lots they're getting. We've adjusted it with both owners' approvals for the two lots that we needed to adjust. So I think everybody's quite comfortable with what we have currently. Not to say that, I'm concerned if we start adjusting stuff, it's going to be like, well, I want a bigger lot, and the other guy next to him was like, well, that should be my lot. It's just going to open up a lot of stuff. We did all this adjustments and everything early on to get it to where it is now in following the lot lines.
So
that's all my concern.
Okay, and so it sounds like, Greg, that he just wants to move forward with this as long as the board.
That's fine by me. Yep.
Yeah, my concern is this: if I go back and say it's not approved, give me another $5,000, everybody, so I can plot it all out. But I don't know if it's going to be approved, as I'm going to get a lot of people saying, "Well, I'm out then. I'm not going to go forward if I'm not going to guarantee it's going to work."
Yep.
I have no problem moving forward, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so then, Greg, why don't you tell the board what they should do?
Mr. Chair, I think the motion would be in order to for approval of the concept plan and to recommend that the applicant draw up a final plat with Mylars. As indicated, probably be Exhibit A. Barry, I'm guessing you're going to mark it?
I'll mark it. And then I would also say subject to the conditions that are attached Exhibit B, as long as those are the same conditions the boards want to go forward with.
So moved.
Is that Dan?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Dan, VI.
Paul, aye.
John, aye.
Dan Mall, aye.
Bob Newman, aye. All right, it went through approval. So the next step, Brian, is to have the surveyor start working on the Mylars.
All right, I'll have them start doing that. Thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Sorry, board, I do have one thing for you. I forgot to petition onto the agenda at the beginning. I do have a very recent previous approval with conditions that I would like to discuss. It's directly with one of the conditions. And so I want to get the board's thoughts on it, and Mr. Vick, this is actually specifically related to your condition. And so we had the Gerald Larson replacement house on Lake Sullivan. One of the conditions was there were two specific conditions that I want to discuss. One was to reduce the roof pitch to help bring the house down. The other one was to reduce the main level by a foot. After talking with Mr. Larson and his draftsman, doing so changes the trusses, which actually then picks it back up. And so the reduction that the board was looking for actually doesn't take place. in the process, because the draftsmen, to get the trusses they need with the changes in the wall height and the roof pitch,
Yeah.
it changes the trusses that they're putting in.
For structurally?
Yeah.
'Cause that's.
And so what his said, I'm still gonna reduce the roof pitch.
Yeah.
I'm just asking to keep the main level at the 9 feet, I think it was.
He wants to raise the main level to 9.
Just keep it what he had on the plan, which was 9 feet.
I kind of vaguely remember the discussion, but I thought that was everybody's concern was the floor height more than I threw in the roof pitch. I guess if the general consensus would be okay with that, I'm okay with it, because it wasn't an ironclad thing that he said. I just thought that, based on everybody else, that, we're trying to keep the height down on it.
And that's where I struggle too. I said, well, should I just say, yeah, just go ahead as, because in the end, the goal was this, but it is a specific condition. I wanted the board to hear it and direct me on it, because I don't want the title work to come back later, somebody, but, well, this is only supposed to be this. Well, then I'm in trouble, so I didn't want to call.
I felt that was all a general
So, yeah,
consensus.
So are we gaining?
Nothing.
What we're going to gain is just the reduction in the roof pitch.
But that won't, but by pushing it up for another, back to, from 8 foot to a 9 foot ceiling, it'll put it back up at the overall height.
Yeah.
Well, no, because that's the plan, is for 9 foot walls. He's not asking to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But we were asking for 8 foot.
Right, so it
More
would drop
foot
a
on the
foot
roof.
and then it would drop more with the roof pitch.
Right.
And so now you're just getting the roof pitch drop, not the wall height drop. And in the end, we're talking a foot. That's the difference. Which over the span of
Would you
the
guys
roof,
rather
the
see
roof
the
pitch
roof
will get.
back
gain
to an
that.
8 and then the wall height? 8?
No, I would rather stay with the roof pitch being where it's
6.
supposed to be.
6'12". Yeah,
The
because we don't
6'12".
let garages go with under the 6, right, on the lake? That's why I thought that 6 foot was, or 6'12" pitch was a.
Yeah, garages are 6'12". Houses aren't limited to that, but garages.
Yeah, but he's getting pretty high there with
Yeah.
3 story, or 2 stories and a walkout.
2-story above the walkout. The lakeside wall's gonna look large, which
It'll be very large.
just about any of them do when you got a 2-story home over a walkout. It's got that impression from the walkout side of being extremely large.
So if we said no, what's he saying? He's gotta get it up
It's gonna,
there
I think he said it ends up raising it 4 inches.
4 inches. Yeah, because you probably have a little more cordage in there, extra. But 4 inches or a foot, right?
Right.
That's splitting hairs, you
Yeah,
know.
I know. But I mean, that's an 8-foot ceiling with a 6'12". He's 4 inches higher than what it would be
Yeah.
than what you would think.
Right.
I'm not opposed to that 4
Okay.
inches.
Okay.
Or a foot if you guys aren't.
Yeah, either
Keep
way.
it 8 foot and keep it a 6'12"?
You're the builder.
Well, it's gotta be the board's decision. I mean,
Yeah, it's a steeper roof and brings the roof up higher.
Yeah, I
Probably
would-
adds about a 1.5 on that roof with the span that he's talking,
Right.
2 inches per 30 feet, so
I mean,
16.
it's, since it is the splitting hairs, is it really worth it? I mean, that's my
Yeah.
thought is
Let him do
it
it.
worth? Do you want, so would you allow him to go back to his original 9-foot wall versus the 8?
It doesn't affect anything else. It doesn't affect neighbors, doesn't affect distance
Just
from the
height.
lake,
Just height.
And
The
I
only
think
thing that's affected is the height.
Importantly, too, we're establishing communication. They're working with us, we're working with them. So I think in the end, we've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish,
Yeah.
Do the 9-foot walls then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
Terry, I don't think, and Greg, if you're still there, we don't need anything with that, do we?
To do what you just talked about?
Yeah.
I think you got it in the record.
Okay.
So, hey, Barry, I did have a question. I maybe missed it here at the beginning of the meeting. Did we adopt the schedule for the year?
Yes.
And time for regular meetings? We did?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sounds good.
Okay, do I hear a dismissal?
I'll make that. I'll make a motion to dismiss the meeting.
Bob, go ahead.
Second.
All right,
Aye.
moved and seconded, aye?
Yeah, boy, I gotta get on my toes. Dan was really quick on that last one.
Hold on a second.
Okay,
Oh, I
aye,
thought Bob
John?
Dan Mully.
Bob, aye.
Hey, I was getting a motion from the attorney, man. I was gonna be quick.